I'm Mr. Connolly, and in this video we're going to be talking about personification. Personification is when we take an object and describe it like it's a human. So on your screen you can see a visual that will help you remember personification. Both of those things, the metallic ball and the blue goo, are objects, but we gave them eyes and mouths, and now they look like humans, and we can ascribe even more human qualities to them, like the expression of fear that the metallic ball has, and, the idea that that blue goo is eating it. So now I'm going to transition back into more of our textbook definitions. So over here, personification, we're talking about things that aren't human like they are human. Here's your textbook definition. Personification: giving an object or an animal human qualities. Now, what are human qualities? Well, anything a person can do, like feel emotions or run or sip, or any kind of action verb that a object cannot do, but that we can ascribe to it. To help, I'm going to give you some examples. And when I thought of my examples, I realized that I hear the most personification when I hear adults talk about their cars. So I wanted to show you my first car. This is a 1996 Toyota Celica, and I am going to personify it for you. This car had an attitude, and by that I mean it was very finicky. It wouldn't start when you wanted to. It would over rev. It was basically on the edge of falling apart, and certainly I could describe it as having an attitude. It had a hole in the exhaust pipe, which made it extremely loud, so when you started it up, it coughed and sneezed, made these terrible noises. This car, not only did I drive this car, but my brother and my sister did, and we all learned to drive manual transmission on it. And in a manual transmission, you shift the gears yourself, and when you learn, you do a lot of damage to the transmission by slamming the gears together. So we put this car in a huge amount of pain by learning to drive standard transmission on it. At times we had to actually do work on this car, take parts off and replace them. And because it was so old, some of those were rusted in place, so the bolts were very stubborn. But the one upside that I give this car is that for a car that was made in 1996, it sipped gasoline. It got like 35 miles to the gallon, which is very good. So I'm going to go through each of those 5 examples and explain how the personification works. Now, number 1, it had an attitude. So a car is an object. It can't have an attitude, although we might ascribe that to a car. That's a human feeling. It coughed and sneezed. Now, it didn't do either of those things. It sounded like that, but humans and animals cough and sneeze. Cars do not. It was in a huge amount of pain. Well, it's an object. It can't experience pain. But humans do. Again, that's personification. We gave the attribute of feeling pain to the object. The bolts were stubborn. Being stubborn is a human quality. So while the bolts did get stuck in place, the word stubborn is an example of me using the personification of the feeling of being stubborn to the bolts, which are an object. It sipped gasoline. The verb to sip can be applied to a human or an animal, but not an object, not a car. I use that verb to say that it drank it, or it took in gasoline very slowly. But again, it's an object. It can't do that. And by extension, I can say that this car eventually did die. We can no longer drive it. And to say that the car died is another example of personification because it was never alive. The same is true for when you say my iPhone died or my computer died. Those are just examples of personification for when your battery runs out or when your iPhone breaks beyond repair. So again, this video is on personification. Just if you have any further questions about personification, please leave me a comment. I will respond as soon as I can. Thank you.